Yo, welcome back to another video. Welcome back to the YouTube channel. And welcome back. Welcome to things we learned from Fulham 1, West Ham United 1. Make sure to like the video and make sure to subscribe if you're new. We're trying to hit 1K as soon as possible. Follow me on Twitter and Instagram and TikTok. That is at GVO Mikes on all platforms if you want to follow me. But yeah, I thought I'd bring you an upload. Make sure to catch also the 8 p.m. The GVO show with Alfie reviewing all the weekend's games and stuff like that as well. We're going to bring you as much content as we can as well, just working around, life. But yeah, things we learned from Fulham 1, West Ham United 1. Let's try and speak as calm as possible when talking about this, because obviously Saturday night stream was just me getting things off my chest when it came to the game, because that was a horrible watch. And I have to reiterate by saying this, I'm not just complaining for the sake of it, because I was complaining about last season, but I didn't go through last season to see what I'm seeing now. And I will trust the progress of a process if I can see something to trust. But now, at this current moment in time, I can't see anything that I can really trust. But let me get into why. The first thing I want to get into is um, the team selections. Now, obviously, you know what players I'm going to talk about. So if you don't want to hear me talk about these same players, click off the video or just leave a dislike. I don't care. But I'm going to talk about this, and I'm going to try and talk as calmly as possible so I can talk objectively about this. Let's start with Thomas Suchek. Let's get him out of the way, because I don't even like talking about him. I get sick of talking about him as well, but that's because I get sick of seeing him on the football pitch. Now, the reason why I'm staying objective and I'm not complaining for the sake of it is because against Manchester City, I wasn't complaining about him. I didn't complain about him and put all my energy into Thomas Suchek, because guess what? He was a substitute that came on. So I didn't have energy for him. But you know, the games where he started literally every other game, so that's Bournemouth in the Cup, Palace, Villa, and Fulham, those are the games he started, and those are the games where we've played absolutely awful for large parts of it, apart from the Crystal Palace second half. It's not all down to him, but the problem with him is not just him, it's the way we use him. And I don't think there's a good way of using him within playing a possession-based side of football, but it actually just becomes a whole new different style of play when we use him the way we do. And that is Suchek in a number 10/second striker role. Now, he was playing ever so slightly, I would say 5 yards maybe deeper than he did against Villa and Palace. But guess what? It didn't make a difference, because he was playing as a literal second striker, number 10 still, despite the 5 yard difference that I've been talking about. The problem with that is we didn't even disguise it this time. Like, usually against Aston Villa and Crystal Palace, and this is just talking from a tactical point of view, that we usually play out from the back, pass it around sideways for a bit, try and find an opening, and all of a sudden we see Thomas Suchek long and we knock it long to him to see if he can flick it down to, well, no one, because we end up losing the ball and it ends up becoming a turnover, and the other team can capitalise upon that. But the problem with that, like now, in the difference between like what I was saying just then, because that's how we played against Crystal Palace and Aston Villa, compared to how we played against Fulham, was pretty much we were just sending it long from straight up from the first goal kick, and we weren't even like passing to the centre backs to then lob it, which is what was confusing me anyway. We're just lobbing it, so that kind of destroys the whole point of why this manager was brought in, to play a different style of play and to buy all these comfortable players on the ball to then not use their ability on the ball. Through the goal kicks and to play through teams. I don't know whether this was because we were away from home, but this whole thing of playing a whole new different style of play because of someone's aerial ability is something we would criticise a David Moyes or Sam Allardyce for doing. It was the same thing when in the 14-15 season where we used to play the diamond formation and Valencia and Saka were up front, and then Andy Carroll and Kevin Nolan would come back fit, and we would just send it long all the time after playing possession-based style of football because Andy Carroll was back from injury, and that would be the games we would tend to lose. It's a similar thing we've criticised other managers for in the past, and from the jump in pre-season, the long ball football has pissed me off. But don't get me wrong, it has got better since the pre-season, and I'd say Max Kilman's the only one that can put it on a penny, put it on a sixpence, or however you say it. But even him, he's not going to get all the long passes accurate all the time, because is a big problem with certain people, but I'm going to come on to the other guy in a second. So the whole changing a style of play for someone who isn't that good at football in general and just isn't that great, someone who Mr. Underappreciated on the ball. I've had plenty of arguments and debates with everyone about this. He's not underappreciated on the ball. He is probably overappreciated because he appreciates himself too much on the ball. Clearly, every time the guy got the ball, it was kicked out of play or it was kicked to the opposition. The guy can't control the ball. He can't take the ball down, and that is bad for a midfielder. The guy shouldn't be playing. The guy should have got a contract last season, and the odd goal every 5 or 10 games does not make up for your deficiencies. If your deficiencies are being so like really covered by your your strengths, because your strengths are like showing way more than your weaknesses, then I can understand it. But his strengths are not showing way more than his weaknesses. He doesn't have the ability to make up for the fact that he's not great on the ball, not great in possession. He doesn't have. He's not like some Haaland of midfielders where he's a lethal shooter all the time. It's not like he takes so many shots from outside the box either, where it's like every time the guy shoots, everyone's afraid or anything. No, we're looking at an odd goal contribution now and then. I don't care about all of that. We've got midfielders now. We've got players now. I'm not looking for any more excuses, and I'm not looking for any more defense. I'm not even going to entertain any more defense of this guy. So if you guys want to defend him, I'm not. I'm just going to ignore it because I've had enough, and it should have been after the Villa game where we didn't see anything. Uh, some people were telling me like, can I get an apology for after the Crystal Palace game? No, you can't get an apology. Why want like it did like all the things he did good against Crystal Palace? I've said he's good at winning the ball and scoring a goal, but scoring a goal now and then, and winning the ball and then doing what with the ball. Let's move on to Mikel Antonio. Let me tell you why I'm not biased when I'm talking about Mikel Antonio. Anyone can get it on this channel. I hope everyone knows that anyone can get it. Anyone. So it doesn't matter if it's your favorite player, my favorite player, the manager, the board. It doesn't matter who it is. I will criticize anyone, and I'm not on the payroll. I just say how it is. I've got my own YouTube channel, and I'm here to just talk facts and just say what I see, well, what I think is facts. Don't mean to be arrogant. Mikel Antonio is my favorite West Ham player that I've watched in my lifetime of all time because, and hear me out. Just don't click off the video just yet. Just hear me out because of what he did for the club on the pitch. Look what he's done for the club. I don't use that tax for now because I'm going to come back to that. Because throughout the time that he came to West Ham, every time we needed someone to really grab the game by the scruff of the neck, it was him that was doing that. However, just because he's my favorite West Ham player of all time, does not mean that doesn't mean that I can't criticize him now. And I've been very critical of him. We were praising what he was doing against Manchester City because the bar was low, but his performance was better than it was against Aston Villa and Crystal Palace, for example. And to be completely honest with you, I think he's done as a starter for West Ham United, and that's fine because the guy's 34, and it's not like I'm calling his whole career at West Ham awful or anything because the guy has done so much for this club. I just think as a starter, it's just not been good enough. It's not been good enough, and he can't really make any excuses because every time he's got the ball, we're asking for you to pin it down because the whole point of playing under Lopetegui's system is, your back's to goal, you pin the defender, and you link up with the wingers, you bring the wingers in, and you control the ball properly. Every time Antonio got the ball against Villa, against Palace, and in this game, like we know Antonio's not the greatest at controlling a ball anyway, but sometimes he can use that to his advantage. But it was terrible, and that's what happened again against Fulham. Also, I don't know what position he was playing in. Now, I used to criticize him. Well, criticize the fact that it was the Moyes system that telling him to drift out wide too much. Sorry, my hair's just sticking up. It's just always that one hair that just sticks up. Fucking hell, man. Look at this. Look at this shit, man. But I don't know where he was playing half the time. Left wing, right wing. He was out of his position more than in his position. I'm also sick and tired of him swapping with Bowen or Kudus so that Kudus can press the middle and Antonio can press the side, and then all of a sudden Antonio wants to just jog back to the side because he doesn't have the same fitness as he once did when it comes to like either tracking back or pressing anyway. And a lot of the times our wingers aren't really meant to track back all the time in this system, but like I don't want to see you covering all the time for a player that's meant to be playing in their position whilst you're affecting the whole front three almost. Um, and putting them two together, intertwining the whole Antonio and Suchek thing just makes it even worse because you can't have your furthest two, central, like most advanced central players to both not control the ball and both not have no chemistry with each other and not have the ability to link up. So it is what it is. But he needs to get dropped. And this intertwines to my other point. I don't know if I've used that word properly, but I don't care. Now we saw Bowen and then play up front, and then Danny Ings come on. Here's what I'm going to say about that. I've been very vocal on this channel that I don't think Bowen up front is the way, and I still don't. I believe that he should be playing on the right, and only on the right. However, if Fulkirk is still injured for next week, I know that it said he'll be back against Chelsea, but let's say he's still injured for next week, just play Bowen up front and then bring Danny Ings off the bench. Because that seems to be the way up until Nicholas Fulkirk becomes fit. Then you bring Fulkirk in as a starter. And I'm not trying to hear any more excuses. I don't care about whoever thinks he's good enough and whoever doesn't think he's good enough. I don't write off players when they've barely played for the club and they barely have cameo minutes. Meanwhile, there's players that have been here for years that are falling off and we're still giving them a chance. No. And it's not about shiny new toy. It's about this isn't working at this current moment of time at the club. So you bring someone new in and you give them a chance to see how it develops. That is just logic. It's just logic. I'm just being real. And I don't have the reason why I don't have the patience anymore as well. I'll get onto it in a minute. You have been backed, Giulio Lopetegui, so much. And if you're playing the right players, integrate them in properly. You're 4 games in. You don't have an excuse about pre-season and they haven't had enough games. You've had time to work and we're training with them. You've even had a behind closed doors friendly to work with the players that were outside of the international duty. You've now made a double sub for a reason because you saw the Antonio and Thomas Suchek thing wasn't good enough. So you brought Somerville and Paquetá on. So I don't want to see Suchek at a 10 ever again. If not, then you haven't learned from your mistakes and you cannot be manager of this club. Because that's the main virus of the whole starting lineup. I don't want to see Suchek in a 10 at all. Because that's a virus right there. That's affecting the whole team. I want ball retention. We've got too much talent and we haven't got enough time to be wasting time on talentless players to put around the most talented players. Like Kudus and Bowen especially don't deserve this. Paquetá needs to step up. Even Bowen does need to step up, don't get me wrong. Mohamed Kudus does need to step up, but they don't get the ball. Somerville doesn't deserve to be on the bench for this. Neither does Todibo. And I'll get onto the centre-back situation in a minute. And yeah, a lot of these players that are on the bench don't deserve to be on the bench. I don't care if it's Carlos Soler's first time. Bring him in as soon as possible. Because it wasn't enough to talk about, to have this all this discourse about his cameo against Fulham. There was not enough time for that. And this is his first game. So anyone that's going to write, I haven't gone on Twitter. I don't scroll through Twitter anymore. I just go on there to reply to DMs and then find the odd thing on there. But if anyone's having discourse on Carlos Soler, please give your head a wobble. Because we've got an important game this weekend, and we'll be coming onto that in the next few weeks. And that's why I've said Lopetegui, for me, like I've given you enough time, in my opinion. So at least I've given you enough time for you to give us time. Because if you was lining up the players that are playing in their positions and you're playing on a front foot, we're opening up teams and we were playing similar to how we did against Manchester City, for example, then I'll be able to give you time and I'll be like, okay, all we need to do then is finish our chances. That's why I went on Orest's channel, big up to Orest. And when I was doing a preview show with everyone, I was saying, we defend well. We just need to finish our chances. We create, but we just need to finish them. Because I was expecting a similar lineup and a similar approach to how we approach Manchester City. Because if we approach that game the same way we did with the City game, we could have won that game. But we didn't. It's not even like we even created much. Even though we do create, we didn't create that much. We wasn't even that many big chances. I don't care. Don't bring me stats about, this many big chances. I watched the game with my 2 eyes. I don't need SofaScore and all your fucking nonsense stat apps. But moving on, and the centre back situation is what I want to talk about as well. That Max Kilman made a mistake for should have done better against Raul Jimenez for the goal, but there should. But I'm not going to have this conversation about Max Kilman as he's been borderline flawless apart from the Fulham game. What I want to talk about is the fact that we hijacked John Clare Todibo, and we're still playing Mavropanos over him. Now I said even against Crystal Palace, even though Mavropanos probably did deserve to play against Manchester City, that Mavropanos against Haaland scares me, and it scared me for a reason, but it wasn't actually the direct reason I was thinking of. I thought it was going to be a man marking job, for example. However, it was more for the fact that for the third goal, the guy was running into no man's land, gave away the ball, turnover, Haaland's running behind, and he scores. Now, what happened for this game, he was taking too long at the ball once again, and he made a severe error for Fulham's goal and just left the whole Fulham team to attack us. And that's why Smith Rowe had so much time to put the ball into Jimenez and scores. I don't know whether Wan-Bissaka was part of that as well, but I haven't seen an angle where Wan-Bissaka was part of that. That's why Todibo needs to come in. So if Todibo doesn't play, it's a big red flag. And I'm going to look at the deal a bit sideways because I know he has to play 5 games for it to be an obligation to buy, for him to confirm to be our player. Because that's what ex-West Ham employee reported very early when we got the player over the line. So I want to see Todibo play. No excuses. We're coming up against, Chelsea side that don't have a clinical goal scorer, but Nicholas Jackson gave us shit in both of the games that we played last season. Yes, against 2 very shit defenders in Aged and Zuma in the first game, and listen, Ogbonna did all he could. The guy was too old to play that away game. But Nicholas Jackson may not be a lethal finisher, but he's still good with his feet and still takes opportunity to create space for himself to even get into those opportunities in the first place. We can't just be giving them. And then again, they could do exactly what they did against Bournemouth for bringing in Christopher Nkunku on, for example. And the only way to deal with these kind of players is for someone like John Clare Todibo, who's inexperienced in his league as well, playing in Liga. He's come up against powerful, skillful strikers before in Liga, and powerful attackers in general, and skillful and technical attackers. So I want to see that Todibo Kilman partnership immediately. And what really confuses me about this Mavropanos situation is that again against Villa he did play well, but he still made mistakes in that game, leaving space in behind too much. His positional awareness is a genuine concern. And the Crystal Palace game, he was amazing. The Man City game and Fulham game, he was making mistakes, too many mistakes. I'm not going to give you credit for heading the ball out of play so many times because that is your job as a centre back. That is the basics. I'm not going to give, a person credit for breathing. This is basic shit. So I want to see Todibo come in, and I want to see that partnership build, because that's the whole point we needed to do, is to reinvent our centre back partnership and have Kilman and Todibo there. And what's really confusing about this was the same manager that preferred Nea Fekir over Mavropanos, and Mavropanos wasn't necessarily up for sale, but they were willing to listen to offers from him. But Gerd is gone, and Mavropanos is still here. Now he's playing over John Clare Todibo, which doesn't make any sense. So you're kind of wasting everyone's time here. And we don't have time for all of this rotation nonsense. We don't have time for it. So just play the best players you have, because this league is too ruthless for you to take this much time with it. But those are the problems I have, and those are the things I wanted to address. But let me know in the comments what you think, and I'd like the video if you're new. Subscribe as well if you are new. Social medias are in the description if you want to follow me. And the email for the inquiries, come and join me and Alfie at 8 p.m. reviewing all the games from Saturday and Sunday. And I'll see you.